Good evening, and I want to start by going over a form. This is on our website. What this is a single sheet that you can condense everything about you on one page. It's got a place for your name and all of that. And then, do you have a will? Yes or no? Do you have a revocable living trust? Yes or no? Do you have a community property agreement? Community property agreements mostly were used so that it made at the first spouse's death really easy to transfer everything over to the surviving spouse. We are a community property state. Do you have a power of attorney document? Both husband and wife need, now, you don't both need a revocable trust unless second marriage and maybe both of them brought one into the marriage, but everybody needs a power of attorney, a healthcare directive, which actually should be mentioned separate, maybe a slash healthcare directive. And at the workshop, we gave away those 5 wishes document. You can get those online for $5 if you weren't there. I would highly recommend, if you weren't at the workshop, write down 5 wishes, go online, order it. It's a very, very good healthcare directive. Most people do not think of all the things that really should be written down, and I would recommend making a second copy and give one to the child or whoever you want to be your power of attorney for healthcare, because they may not know where it is when they need it, and you may not be competent to tell them, or in a coma or gotten dementia. So it's pretty wise, I think, to give it to whoever's supposed to act on your behalf. My sister lost my mother's, and when she was in the hospital dying, we couldn't enforce any kind of requests. And then a living will, which says, do you want to be kept alive artificially? But there are many other issues that go along with that. Do you have long-term care insurance? Hopefully, everyone who's 65 has a Medicare supplement. And by the way, when you turn 65, don't mess around and not apply for Medicare and Social Security. There are certain time limits, and things can really not be cool if you don't. There is a brand new thing that's come out. It's called Scholarship Granting Organizations. Starting in 2027, a couple, I believe, or an individual can give $1,700 to what are called these scholarship granting organizations, and you get a full tax credit, not a deduction. It can be used for Christian schools or homeschool group, but it's something that's really kind of cool if someone wants to donate to scholarships. And there's more that goes along with it, but I'm just mentioning it to get it out there on the airwaves. This next question, are you potentially going to have significant capital gains on stocks, a house, anything else? It's quite important to know those things so you can kind of plan. And do you plan on making any charitable bequests at the time of your death? If there are couples or individuals that maybe you've never had the ability to have children, your circumstances, maybe you're not really close with siblings, or they've died, or whatever, it's a wonderful thing to make a charitable bequest at the time of death. It can really, really help a nonprofit group, especially a church. And then, what kind of health conditions do you have? And I think it's good to write them down so you start to work on, what can I do? Is there anything in my power to get rid of this high blood pressure by losing weight, by this exercising? Is there, just kind of having it on paper? Then, what real estate do you own? Do you have a home? Do you have any rental properties, an Airbnb? And people forget this all the time. 10 acres in Oklahoma that my parents bought and left it to me. Nobody else even knows you own it. Personal property is important. And let me mention this. If you happen to have quite a bit of jewelry or very specific collectibles, you should report those and take video footage and or contact your insurance company, your P&C, your property casualty policy, the company that issued that. Many policies, at least back in the day, they would only cover maybe $2,500. I'll just say this as a general principle. It is really wise to take a video, walk through your whole house. It's hard to remember why did we claim, how much in personal items, and the insurance companies can really hassle people. Let me mention this while I'm at it also. Never call your insurance company and say, I got in a wreck, but I don't want to make a claim, I don't think. Even if you don't make a claim, it's going to get reported. So unless you know you want to make a claim, don't call your insurance company and say, I think the damage isn't too much. I'm probably going to pay for it. That will go in your insurability record. Deeds of trust, not a lot of people, I don't think, have those as much anymore, but what they are, instead of getting a typical mortgage, a deed of trust, when you buy a house, there's only you and the lender. A deed of trust has a lender, a borrower, and a trustee. It's usually for people that have a number of properties because it gives the person who was selling it more power to foreclose. It closes more quickly. There's some advantages, but that would be for real property. 401ks, IRAs, again, I just harp on it because I saw so many nightmares. Make sure the beneficiary on your 401k, IRA, 403b, 429, whatever they are, make sure they're who you really want them to be today. And if someone dies, change it. And by the way, don't put your living trust as the beneficiary unless you know that you've got really good wording in your living trust, because that can really mess up trying to get the money out and paid without bad tax ramifications. So name the people you actually want to get it, not your trust. And make sure it's not your ex-wife or, your kid that's now on drugs or whatever. Life insurance, make sure somebody knows you have a policy and make sure the beneficiary is accurate on that. Annuities. Sometimes people forget annuities because they're from a life insurance company. They're not in your bank. And stocks, bonds, mutual funds. Obviously, that's not a lot of room, but this is more, I've got 2 mutual funds and this, that. So just put the total in here. Cryptocurrencies, I added that. That sure wasn't on there 25 years ago, but make sure, absolutely sure, you write down passwords. If you lose a password in a crypto account, it's gone forever. You cannot get it back. There's no, I forgot my password. Super important. And make sure to tell your executor, whoever is going to be your trustee or executor, I have cryptocurrency. There is a password, and you got to be careful. If you tell one of your kids who's on they get on drugs, and you say the password to my 200,000 of cryptocurrency is taped to the top of my underwear drawer, they could come in and find it, and not good things. But so it's one of those. But while we're on it, everything online, write down your passwords. They won't know them. And it can be really important to get to things. And then anything that's bank related, checking, savings, money market, CDs, whatever, just totals. You don't have to write each one down, although it's great if you have a separate page to write them down. And throw the paperwork away. If you always get CDs, Don't keep your paperwork for 20 years. Your kids are going to come in and think they got $4 million instead of 300,000. And they'll be very confused. Here's one that many people never, ever think about. Do I have, now many of us are a lot older now, but do you potentially have an inheritance that's coming? And at least, for a little bit, I'd say encouragement as you're thinking, do I have enough money to get through retirement to get me all the way to death? Well, if, your brother or sister who's older has said, I never got kids, I'm going to leave you half of my net worth. Well, that might be 500,000 that you wouldn't take into account here. And, you can't guarantee it, but it might be important in how you're planning how much risk to take on with your savings, that it's kind of there as at least hope. Okay. Husband and wife, if you're still earning income, Social Security for husband and wife, pension income, really important. Does that pass to your spouse? Are they going to get all of it? Only 50% of it? However you set that up. Interest and dividend income, tax-free income, typically that's disability or military disability, or if you have tax-free bonds, whatever, but what is tax-free? And then any other income from anywhere, from an old whatever. And that way, and part of this is also good because not just assets, but income does come into play if you're going to apply for long-term care help from Medicaid. Your income matters. And so, and then when you get all done, you can add up all your assets, put the total here, less any debts, and you can pray right there, forgive us our debts, but it may not get answered. But and then you're going to know what your total net worth is. And I added this and put it on here just because I wanted and want people to really think through, who am I right now? If I died tomorrow, see, we have no guarantees. Any of us could get killed in a head-on collision, a drunk driver, whatever. I just had breakfast today with someone. His father was killed by a drunk driver, came across head-on, instantly killed. Are the people that you have named as your heirs or beneficiaries, do they have special needs? Are they someone with special needs? Then you really need a special needs trust, separate trust from your living trust, so that you can provide income to them without leaving them a huge lump sum and they lose all their state aid. Or do they have addiction issues? If they do, you better make a special needs trust. Don't leave them a lump sum. Set it up so there's a trustee and they can get so much. And you could say they can get a lump sum if they are buying a house, but even that's dangerous. There's no magic. But if it's someone that you think has terrible money management, even though they're not addicted or special needs, you still may want to set up a trust that only allows so much. And you can put in your will or trust anything you want. A lot of parents, I'd always tell them, and some of them were like, oh my goodness, thank you. We've been so worried. You can put stipulations in them getting their inheritance. One that I would suggest, if someone's had a lot of problems with either just literally lazy or whatever, you can put something like, you can take out of your inheritance an amount equal to your annual income for this year. In other words, they only can take out per year the same as they've earned, or half as much as they've earned. You can't incentivize heirs, but you can motivate them. So If you feel, oh man, I can't leave this person $200,000, they'll spend it in a year. They never work, they're always in trouble. Okay, you can only get X amount based on, so you can, or you have to pass a drug test twice a year, and then you can get half of your annual amount if you pass that drug test. It's not perfect, but you can put language in if you want. Um, if it's a second spouse, we talked about that in this workshop. That can raise issues. How much do they get? And I want to emphasize it again. If you leave everything to a second spouse and you've got 3 children from a first marriage, there's a good chance your second spouse is going to either spend it all and the kids won't get it, or her kids will get it, or his kids will get it. Do you want to exclude heirs? You better talk to an attorney, because if you exclude heirs with just, oh, I don't want them, that can trigger lawsuits, and the executor or trustee is required to fight it. So they got to get an attorney, and it can create all kinds of unnecessary costs. Do you think there's going to be lawsuits or legal challenges? If you've got a family with a lot of issues, the kids hate each other, then you really better talk with an attorney. Don't hide it. Let them know that. Or if you're leaving 2 children out and leaving money to non-relatives, 2 people at church, boy, you better talk to an attorney. That can create legal challenges. Do you want to leave money to a charity, a church, a ministry? What other complexities might there be, or what uncertainties? And so there you go. I wanted to go over this. We didn't have time in the workshop, but I hope you find that helpful. Even if you didn't fill all this out, just going over it, I hope it expands your mind a little bit of how to look ahead. But I think it's a great exercise. I'll tell you the other exercise that I would encourage everyone, and I forgot to really say this. I mentioned it in passing, but please sit down and do a fire drill if you're married. And just choose a night and say, or Saturday morning, okay, we're going to pretend like one of us gets killed instantly. What do I know that you don't know? And in most marriages, I should say a lot of marriages, the husband handles all the finances, or the wife handles all the finances, and the other spouse knows almost nothing. Do a fire drill, write things down. And there's a great tool. It's just a little box. It's called a knock box, and it's got file folders in it. And it's a great one area to hold documents and things. But sit down with each other and say, okay, what would our kids not know if they walked in the house and we're both dead? Where is this? Where is that? Do we not want them to sell the house? We do not. We want you to rent it out and use it for income for yourselves. Just, by the way, where is that? Well, where is that? Just try to think that tomorrow morning you're not going to wake up. And what would someone know, an executor, a trustee, what would they not know? What have you hidden somewhere? The $10,000 in the shoebox behind the books, whatever. Okay, let's pause. Let me stop sharing. Any questions after that little fire hose drill?